Hey guys, it's me, cyoubx. About a week ago, Brody critiqued my solves and told me how inefficient my F2L was, and specifically he gave me two things to work on. The first was to actually solve F2L pairs that were more readily available. So instead of looking for the first F2L pair that I found, maybe look for multiple pairs and find the one that's easiest to do first. The second thing that he told me to do was to actually figure out more efficient solutions. And the idea is by combining those two different things, my move count for cfop should be a lot lower. And by having a lower move count, it means that I don't have to turn as fast to get the same times, or alternatively, if I have the same TPS as I currently do, by decreasing the number of moves, I'm going to get faster. So this week, I basically worked on just the first part, which was to find better F2L pairs to solve rather than looking for the first pair that I find. So in this video, you'll see that my solve style is a little bit different than before. I wouldn't say it's drastic, but the main things that I've really focused on is decreasing the number of cube rotations that I do. And in the past, I don't think I would generally do cube rotations to find pieces. That's just not something that I have a habit for, but I would do more cube rotations than needed. So for example, I might do one cube rotation to pair the pieces and then a second cube rotation to actually insert the pair. So you'll notice in these solves that that's mostly resolved. I think for the most part, at most, each pair only requires one cube rotation, and actually a lot of pairs I've been inserting rotationless as well, and that's been helping. I think the main thing that I've really focused on though is actually just pausing a little bit, just to be able to track multiple pairs and see which one is actually the best. To me, this felt really uncomfortable because I had just figured out how to do crossed F2L transition, for example, and in fact, I made a video showing how I'm doing crossed F2L transition. And so it sort of went against my nature this week to actually purposefully pause for the sake of finding better F2L pairs. I think it's particularly difficult to find the best pairs right after cross, because after cross you have 4 pairs to choose from. If you do pseudo slotting, then of course you have a lot more, but generally speaking you have 4 pairs to choose from, and so ideally what you would like to be able to do is actually look at all 4 pairs and assess which of the 4 is the best. But that's not really feasible, at least not at my level, and so for me the best thing I can do is kind of look at 2 pairs, and if I'm lucky 3 pairs, and see which of those is easy. Of course, when you get down to the 3rd and 4th F2L pairs, that's not so difficult because your options are limited and you already have 2 slots filled. So you kind of just see both pairs at once and see whichever one is easier. So I think the end result is that in some of my solves, I end up pausing more than I used to. So after cross, I'll basically pause a little bit and look for multiple pairs and then do the one that's more efficient. Of course, there are very obvious cases after cross where there's like a 3-move insert and then I don't even bother looking for a second pair because I know the one that I see is already really good. And sort of by extension, it's the same thing. So if I'm done with cross and I see a pair that's not horrible, I'm probably just going to go for it without looking for a second pair. Because I think in situations like that, pausing for a half second is not really worth it when I could just do the pair that I already see and it's not an awful pair. But the situations where I don't see a good pair right away, those are the solves that I typically get high 12s or even 13-second solves on. And I think the main reason is just that in situations like that, I sort of try to find multiple pairs and sometimes they all are bad. And in that case, pausing for that half second just wasn't worth it at all. So to summarize, I don't think I've fully optimized how to pause after cross yet, because in one situation, if it's an easy pair that I see during cross, I'm just going to do that pair, so there's no pause at all. But then following cross, if the first pair I see is bad, there's sort of 2 things that can happen. One is I pause and I look for a pair that's better, and then I solve it, and then the pause is totally worth it. But there are also cases where I pause and the only other pairs I see are equally bad, in which case the pause was totally worthless. So I think for me, the next steps is really going to be optimizing how I use my pauses, especially following cross. I'm also going to start working on actually doing more efficient F2L pairing. So you'll notice in this video that I was still doing a lot of cases inefficiently. That's just because that wasn't the focus this week. I do think that working on more efficient pairing is not going to be that hard because I think I have the cubing knowledge to do it. Like I don't even really need to look up cyoubx. I know for the most part already how to solve all those pairs. It's just actually implementing them into muscle memory and putting them into solves. So with all of that being said, I'm really happy with my progress this week. I don't think my global average is any faster. I think my global average is still roughly the same, but I'm getting a lot more good averages of 5, which I think shows a lot of potential for where I can be in the coming months. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this update. Really happy to finally get a sub 10 average on camera. Thanks for watching, and until next time, toodles.